Boston-born Leland Hago Harrington was a pioneer in the development of Massachusetts hockey, both as a player and later as a coach. Reputed to be the most talented area high school player, a 19-year-old Harrington joined the famed Boston Unicorn Club of the United States Amateur Hockey Association, which was considered the best league in the U.S.
Now, keep in mind, this is pre-NHL, but he's going from high school to essentially the highest level of hockey that we had in the U.S. at that time, and the BAA was a power.
In 2 seasons, Hago scored 23 goals in just 30 total games. In December of 1925, he signed with the second-year Boston Bruins of the NHL, becoming part of a modest influx of American-born and developed talent in what had been an almost exclusively Canadian league. Just 3 minutes into his first game, he scored his first NHL goal. Hago ultimately contributed 8 goals in 44 games in his 2-year tenure with the Bruins. Harrington was later traded to Providence of the Canadian American Hockey League. During his 8 seasons with the Reds, he scored 92 goals and led them to 3 Can-Am titles.
He was a scorer and a finesse player, played an active role on these championship teams and helped them win, the 3 titles out of the 7 times they went there.
In 1932, Hago returned to the NHL during a brief 24-game stint with the Montreal Canadiens, highlighted by scoring a playoff goal in an opening round loss to the New York Rangers. Harrington would finish his playing career in the Can-Am, retiring after the 1936 season as the all-time points leader in the CAHL.
He was a first-team All-Star a couple of times, and he was league MVP another time. An absolutely outstanding player.
After his retirement, Harrington went on to become the head coach for the Boston Olympics of the Eastern Amateur Hockey League. He led the Olympics to 4 consecutive EAHL championships between 1944 and 1947. But among all his many exploits, there was one that will forever stand out above the rest. While skating with the Bruins in February of 1926, Hago scored midway through the 3rd period to give the Bruins a 7-3 lead. More importantly, it gave Harrington his 3rd goal of the game, a feat that would soon become known as the hat trick.
He had the first hat trick by an American in the history of the NHL. That's probably the most significant thing. His lasting legacy would be the fact that he was a very successful American player. I mean, you just look at what he's done. You're saying, how could you miss this guy originally?
And now, joining the list of immortals who have left an indelible mark on the game of hockey in the United States, please welcome Leland Hago Harrington to the United States Hockey Hall of Fame. Accepting on behalf of the Harrington family, please welcome the former Executive Director of the U.S. Hockey Hall of Fame Museum and current member of the U.S. Hockey Hall of Fame Selection Committee, Mr. Roger Godin.
Well, it's a distinct honor on my behalf to represent the Harrington family and to congratulate the other enshrinees, Red Berenson, Natalie Darwitz, David Poyle, Paul Stewart, and the family of Jim Johansson, and recognizing Jim's contributions that were outlined earlier in the program for the Lester Patrick Award. Now, there's not much doubt that early American hockey has not been researched in sufficient depth. When I say that, I'm referring to the accomplishments of our players, and certainly Harrington is an example of that. I was the recorder for the first meeting of the Selection Committee of the United States Hockey Hall of Fame. It was held in Boston in the fall of 1972. And I can assure you that Hago Harrington's name never arose. And we had the best people available then, historically, the late Don Clark and Walter Bush, but Harrington wasn't a player at all. So we're catching up. And so we've caught up to the point where we've found this magnificent player coming out of Melrose, Massachusetts High School and going on to play at the highest level of hockey in the United States at that time, the United States Amateur Hockey Association. It really was a major league operation, despite the name, divided into three divisions and subsequently morphed into two. But it's important to emphasize the fact that Harrington did essentially what Phil Housley, Tom Barrasso, and Bobby Carpenter did later on. He went from high school to the highest level. Now, who did he do that with? He did it with the BAA. It was all the BAA, the Boston Athletic Association. And many of you will say, well, yeah, they're the people that run the great race every April. Very true. But there was a time when they were active in hockey, the 20s and 30s, producing some outstanding teams. The 23-24 team was runners-up for the national title, something called the Fellows Cup, which the U.S. AHA, basically that was their playoff cup. And then the 1924 U.S. Olympic team, which wins the silver medal in France. Squads in those days were 9 or 10 players. Well, 2/3 of that team came off the BAA. So it shows you what a factor they were and what an achievement it was for Harrington to go from high school to that level. Now, the video recounts what Hago did in the NHL, the 3-goal game, and his subsequent career, principally with Providence of the Canadian American Hockey League. So I won't belabor that, but I do want you to keep in mind that the league that he was playing in, Canadian American, subsequently morphed into what we now know as the American Hockey League, the highest minor league that we have in this country. So he was putting up great numbers, and that's recounted. But I want to leave you with this. Hago had a daughter by the name of Sally Harrington, and she herself had a significant career, going on to be a prima ballerina with the New York City Ballet, one of the outstanding ballet companies nationally, founded by the late George Balanchine. So she, in effect, was playing at the highest level, as was her father. So what did she dance under? Was it Sally Harrington? No, it wasn't. She danced under Sarah Leland. That's right. She used her father's last name. And what greater tribute can there be than that? So I leave you with that. Thank you.